Hi, everybody. My name is Emily, and this is Kitty. We're so excited to be talking with you guys today. But just wanted to give you a heads up that this is a pre-recorded presentation, so you're speaking to past Emily and Kitty now, but we will be on live and in person over Zoom at the very end to do some question and answers. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to jump in. Bear with me a moment here. All right. So welcome to Developing with Disney TV Animation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kitty Walsh, and I'm Director of Development for Disney Junior, Disney's preschool content brand and channel. I started at Disney as an assistant and have grown with the team these last 5 to 6 years. And before Disney, I worked in the not so preschool friendly world of prison documentaries, but that's a story for another day. I am passionately driven to collaborate with new storytellers like yourselves in the animation community and develop heartfelt, fun, and impactful series that speak to every child. Most recently, I was a development executive on Disney Junior's Mickey's Tale of Two Witches, The Chicken Squad, and Eureka, and have been working on some exciting unannounced shows and movies for Disney Junior coming soon.
And I'm Emily. I'm the development manager over at Disney TVA. I've been working as a creative executive at Disney for about 2.5 years now. But prior to that, I was actually working in development production on shows like The Ghost of Molly McGee and KIF, and a bunch of other stuff that's going to get announced soon that I can't wait to talk to you guys about. And before that, I was actually in production on Tangled, the series. So I've been at Disney about 5 years now. I love animation more than anything else. And it's been a blast working with creators to help bring their shows to life and to share them with the world. And to kick things off, here's our mission statement. Disney Television Animation is a creative community of visual storytellers who celebrate and embrace the magic of Disney.
And for more than 35 years, we've been doing just that. From the very first series, which started it all, The Gummy Bears, to our most recently premiered shows, Monsters at Work and Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Disney Television Animation and Disney Junior, in partnership with TVA and some of our other amazing animation studio partners, have created some of the most revered series and characters that have truly stood the test of time. And we've got plenty more to come. I'm sure all of you can identify some of your favorite Disney animated shows here.
I definitely can. Now let's talk about our audience. Knowing your audience is very, very important. And here at Disney TVA, we are constantly learning about who they are and what their lives are like. It's no secret that our world is changing every day, and kids today are being shaped by these cultural shifts and realities around them. With greater access to media and closer relationships with parents, kids are becoming less shielded. Many kids have seen parents and loved ones lose jobs or struggle financially, and more kids are living in homes with multi-generational family members than ever before. Kids today also aren't colorblind. They have a higher level of awareness for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and are looking for it to be reflected in the content they watch. These are the realities we take into consideration as we look for stories with authentic and relatable points of view. Access, opportunity, and empowerment defines this generation. They're taking matters into their own hands and are looking towards a future filled with limitless possibility. And we found that if we want to attract the attention of viewers, young and old, we need great comedy. Kids of all ages and genders are looking for shows that make them laugh. When writing comedy, we like to use multi-layered jokes. By doing this, we ensure our comedy is funny for kids and their parents.
And just a quick note for Disney Junior. For Disney Junior, please know that physical comedy is king. Preschoolers will not necessarily get your layered jokes, though they may be appreciated by their parents. Always have a laugh ready for our youngest viewers if you want to include layered jokes in Disney Junior shows. As you know, Disney Junior shows are for them, not for us.
Despite all of these differences from previous generations, there are certain universal truths and stories that always resonate despite who the audience is, like stories about friendship and family, growing up, fish out of water stories, following your dreams, with great power comes great responsibility, and many, many more.
Okay, so first let's talk about our audiences. At Disney Junior, our target demo is for 2 to 7-year-olds and their families, but our core audience is 2 to 5-year-olds.
And with Disney Channel, and Disney Plus. Obviously, a lot has changed in our world over the past year, but a big change that's happened to us at Disney TVA is that we're now creating content for Disney Channel and Disney Plus. So let's get into what makes these platforms different and what is staying the same. At Disney Channel, our primary audience is 6 to 11-year-olds, though our focus is really that 9 to 11 and honestly, even that 9 to 14-year-old audience. And that's really because kids are aging up in the content they watch, meaning that we're seeing our 6 to 8-year-olds engaging more with content that has typically been considered older. While in Disney Plus, we strive to make content that is family co-viewing, meaning that shows should appeal to the whole family, both kids and adults without kids. Our content needs are always evolving, though, based on multiple external and internal factors. However, this has kind of been the most consistent. Disney Channel is kid-forward episodic comedy. Like I mentioned, 9 to 11-year-old kids are the primary audience for our shows on channel. And episodic means that viewers should be able to jump in and engage at any point in your series. Disney Plus, on the other hand, is serialized, high-concept, co-viewing stories. Kids, parents, and adults without kids are the audience for these shows. Content has arcs that encourage repetitive engagement viewing and appointment viewing, which means if new episodes come out on Friday night, you're there every Friday night watching the episodes. And we're also not only limited to 11 minutes, we're able to expand our shows a little bit. Oh, Kitty, you're muted. Oh no.
Sorry about that. So now that you know our target demos, let's talk about our brand pillars for Disney Junior and Disney TVA. First, we'll start with Disney Junior. So Disney Junior, where the magic begins. Disney Junior is often one of the first, if not the first, connection a child has to the Disney brand. And that's quite a responsibility. Our collective mantra is this Walt Disney quote: "We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And this is the spirit in which we develop." Here are the Disney Junior pillars that collectively make our creative North Star, what we look for when developing a series. Let's break them down. Aspirational characters that reflect our diverse world. Doctors, detectives, pirates, princesses, and also the clubhouse. More than anything, Disney Junior is known for aspirational and fun characters that connect with young kids. Have you heard the phrase, "If you can see it, you can be it"? We want to give kids opportunities to see characters in roles that they perhaps hadn't seen before and empower them to take up their scepter, stethoscope, or detective gear and save the day and maybe save the world. As you create your own protagonist, think about the questions: what does your character do? And is that role understandable and aspirational to a 4-year-old? Doc McStuffins is a caring and smart kid doctor who puts on her magic stethoscope and fixes broken toys. Could you crystallize your hero in a similar way? Elements of magic or fantasy. So Disney Junior focuses on magical storytelling that transports young kids to another world that they truly want to be a part of, or inspire them to find the magic within themselves. We aim to fulfill their wishes to rule a kingdom like Elena of Avalor, be in a monster hit rock band with Vampirina, and go on a mission to help pets in need with Pugs, Bingo, and Rolly. Now, not every story needs literal whiz bang boom magic. Some of our shows focus on smaller, more grounded magical elements. Fancy Nancy and Muppet Babies utilize imagination as the source of magic in their world. And Puppy Dog Pals, Bingo and Rolly, are able to travel to Antarctica to get ice cubes for their owner all in the span of 11 minutes and without any flight attendant questioning their presence on the airplane. It's magic. Signature music that defines the world. Music is a crucial part of the Disney DNA. Could you imagine Frozen without Let It Go? Nope. We look at music and songs as a necessity to push our story forward in every series and to be an extension of that particular series world. For Mira, Royal Detective, our Disney Junior series that is set in a magical Indian-inspired land called Jaipur, Mira and her friends break out into big Indian dance numbers set to a variety of new songs. And for kid vampire Vampirina, she doesn't just play songs on a ukulele, she rocks out on her spookulele, with Transylvanian pop sensation the Scream Girls. These songs will live with our young viewers in the show, in the car ride to school, at birthday parties, in bedtime routines, you name it. Rich storytelling with heart. It goes without saying that we want to tell stories that make you feel something. For our young kid viewers, Disney Junior stories connect with and reflect their first milestones in life. Making a friend, trying again to learn something, tying their shoe for the first time, etc. while still speaking to universal values both kids and adults, young and old, hold close. Treat others with kindness, be an advocate for what's right, and love without prejudice. Our storytelling has fun and comedy, but at the core of every show we do, there's a clear emotional purpose. And our last pillar, social and emotional learning. So when I say I work in development for the preschool audience, people may think that means I'm teaching kids 1, 2, 3s and their ABCs. As a brand, Disney Junior is first and foremost focused on social and emotional learning, presenting relationships and scenarios that relate to our young audience. These are stories that inspire kids to grow by understanding and managing their emotions, showing empathy for others, and approaching challenges with heroism and resilience. Now that you know the creative pillars that fuel our content on Disney Junior, let's talk about Disney Channel and Disney Plus with Emily.
Thanks, Kitty. Now we'd like to move on to our Disney TVA creative pillars. These pillars were a collaboration of several creative executives and show talent here at TVA. And we found that this is really for the best way for us to connect with our audience and for our shows to stand out as a brand. You can think of this as a recipe for a Disney TVA show. And we run all of our pitches through these filters. So I'm going to break each of them down for you. First and foremost is comedy with heart. Great comedy transcends boundaries, and humor is integral to our shows. If it's not funny, it's just not going to work for our audience. Our brand of comedy is born from well-defined characters. Jokes will be indicative of their personalities and come from their interpersonal relationships within the world of the show. We want sophisticated comedy. So if you plan on doing a fart joke, it better be the most sophisticated fart joke I've ever heard. And the heart of Disney humor means that we are not mean-spirited, crass, or even sarcastic. Our shows, we want the audiences to laugh with our characters and not at them, unless they want us to. Authentic points of view through inclusive storytelling. This sets a show apart from the rest, making it both memorable and universally relatable. Kids should feel both seen and heard by our content, so it must come from an authentic place. Research shows that kids are positively impacted by seeing themselves on screen, and adults too, for that matter. This absolutely applies to race and ethnicity, but inclusive storytelling also encompasses even more than this. It's unique family dynamics, neurodiversity, socioeconomic diversity, difference of ability, gender identity and expression, and loads more of specific experiences true to childhood. Relatable and surprising characters and worlds. A simple breakdown for this is an ordinary character in an extraordinary world, or an extraordinary character in an ordinary world. Our research finds that kids love familiarity, but they crave novelty. So this means when we're considering projects, we're looking for what grounded and relatable points of view your characters are bringing into the new and exciting worlds they enter into, like Anne from Amphibia. And on the flip side, we're also looking at how extraordinary characters change the world around them and bring excitement or new learnings into everyone's lives, like Cricket and Big City Greens. Fantastical wish fulfillment. I'm sure you hear this and you automatically think Disney magic, and I don't blame you. That is a part of our brand, and there's a lot of magic to what we do. But fantastical wish fulfillment is more than just magic, wishes, dreams, fantasies, all of that. It's more than that for us. It can come from a loyal group of friends you'd love to hang out with, like Recess, or the adventurous and loving family you've always wanted, like DuckTales. And it can even be about finding a place where you finally fit in, like Lou's and Owl House. This is the type of wish fulfillment that appeals to our demographic. And finally, stories that matter. This is your time to show us why this matters to you and what is truly important about your project. We have a saying in development: what's your show about, but what is it really about? For example, on the surface, Amphibia is about a teen girl getting sucked into a frog world and navigating her way through it. But in reality, Amphibia is about growing up and evolving into being a better person. We can bring this back to who the audience is and also to who you were as a kid. What matters to them and what mattered to you? These are the stories we're looking for. Our viewers want to experience fun, meaningful, and engaging content. We want to tell stories that make our audience feel seen and heard, but will also help them see things from a new point of view. In our experience, we find that when we tell stories that matter to us, they will matter to our viewers.
Regarding our pillars, it's important that you don't try to retrofit your story into them. Your project should naturally fit with our brand. And with that in mind, let's discuss what we look for in a pitch. Okay, well, we look for your creative vision. So you have an idea for a show and you have an opportunity to pitch to us. We want to know your creative vision. What is your show really about? Not just what happens in your show, but the purpose of your show. What are you trying to say? Think back to Emily's example on Amphibia with Anne evolving into a better person. And themes. Having central themes is crucial. What bigger concepts will you convey in your series? And what will the audience learn? Visual development. You don't have to be an artist to pitch a show, but it is helpful to have some ideas about style and visual tone. We don't create things that just look cool. We're influenced by the world of the show and the story. So you should be able to explain the why behind your style thoughts. But know that we also have a fabulous visual development team at TVA who will help us hone in on the look of your show. Core characters and relationships. With core characters, you should know who they are and the nature of their relationships to one another. We'll dive deeper into characters shortly, but making sure you have all the relationships planned out is key. What do they mean to each other? How is your protagonist different from other leading Disney characters? Is your protagonist relatable to our audience? And original stories. So original stories mean your stories. We do not take pitches for Disney IP unless we explicitly ask you to do one. We want stories unique to you and your personal experience. And think back to those pillars we just discussed. Okay, so in order for us to option an idea, we need a pitch Bible. A pitch Bible, for those who don't know, is a 3 to 5 page document that tells us everything we need to know about your show, and it should include the following: a logline or brief premise line. Loglines are incredibly important when it comes to pitching. Ever heard the term elevator pitch? It's the refinement of your idea down to a short and snappy sales line. If you only had 30 seconds to sell your show, what would you say? A successful logline should explain what the show is in about 1 to 2 sentences. Episode premises. You should include a section of sample episodes, and each one should demonstrate the core concept of your show and feature your main character. We also want to see variety in the kinds of stories you can tell, and know that's not just a problem of the week show. Is there an emotional range to the episode ideas? An exciting pilot story is great, but we as development executives are thinking, what does episode 5 look like? What does episode 25 look like? This is the best way to get an idea of the strength of your concept. Character descriptions. So who are your main characters? As mentioned previously, include descriptions of them and their relationships to one another, both literal relationships, brother, sister, best friends, neighbors, but also personal relationships. They're friends because, they dislike each other because, and it never hurts to make a chart. Visuals. So we don't need to see a fully visually developed project. Play to your strengths and include what you feel helps sells your idea. If you can't draw, include a mood board with pictures or art that inspires you. We know that things will change as your project moves forward in development.
Now that we've talked about what we specifically look for in a pitch Bible, let's talk more conceptually about what we look for in a project. The two most important things for us at Disney are character and story. As executives, when we're reviewing pitches and even giving notes on our current development projects, we always ask ourselves these questions. How do your characters resonate with the audience? Think back to our inclusive storytelling pillar. Is this a character you would have hoped to have seen as a kid? What are your characters' wants and needs, and how do those conflict? That friction is how all great stories start. How will the characters grow throughout the series, and what will they learn? But to figure out each character's personality, we like to give them a little test. It's called the lemon test. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, when life gives you lemons. Well, Alex Hirsch used this as a test when exploring Dipper, Mabel, and Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls. What would each of these characters do with a lemon? Well, Dipper would take the lemons, squeeze out the juice, and use it to make invisible ink to write secret messages. Mabel would knit the lemons cute little sweaters in case they got cold, and Grunkle Stan would take the lemons, dip them in orange paint, and sell them as mutant oranges for twice the price.
All right, moving on to story. So here are important questions we'll often ask in pitches, but you should also be asking these as you craft your own stories. What do you have to say, and why is it relevant to our audience? Is it funny? Does it have heart? We want your show to make us laugh, but also have an emotional impact on the audience. Is your show episodic with standalone episodes that we don't need to follow, or serialized with a longer overarching series arc? How long are the episodes? These last two questions are a little more technical, but affect how we look at your series as a whole and how you write your episodes. So for Disney Junior, we look for 11-minute or 7-minute episodes typically. And for Disney Channel, Disney Plus, it's around 11-minute to 22-minute episodes.
Now that we've talked about what we look for in a pitch, we want to talk about what we look for in you. Here's just a few things that we look for in the talent we collaborate with. First off is your level of professional experience. While we do believe great ideas can come from anywhere and anybody, it's not just about having a great idea. We need to know that you can navigate the development process and manage others. Many of you watching this may just be starting out in the industry, so we understand that you may not have had the opportunities to garner that experience just yet. But we also want you all to understand that when you are pitching a show to Disney TVA, we do expect that you will be able to run that show eventually. So, what is your level of experience? You may be an amazing storyboard artist or a staff writer, but have you ever led a team? Can you work with higher leadership like creative executives? Do you really know what it takes to make a show? If not, work on gathering that experience. Don't worry, we will still be here. Your ability to convey your distinct point of view. Now, this is your creative vision that Kitty spoke about before. Are you able to effectively communicate your vision both in your work, but also to those working with you, like your creative executives, but also those working with you in development, like your editor, your storyboard artists, your writers, and so on. Know your strengths and weaknesses. You do not have to be an expert at everything, but you do need to know where you need support. So don't be afraid to admit you don't know something.
Self-starters. So we don't develop for you. Like we've said, it's your creative vision that will move a show forward. We are the North Star guiding you home, but you are the captain of your own ship. And ability to pivot in development. Change is the only constant in the development process, and creating a show is no easy task. It takes a village. You more than likely will be asked to adjust and sometimes change aspects of your show while in development based on various external and internal factors. As executives, we're here to help you navigate this crazy journey and make your show the best it can be for Disney TVA and Disney Junior. And to some pitching tips. To make sure you put your best foot forward, we've got some advice for you. While we wrote these to be specific to TVA, we feel like these are probably universal. So while some of you may be veterans at pitching, for those who are just starting out, here is a quick rundown of what to expect when you meet with us. So we typically meet for 30 minutes. The first 5 minutes will be people being late, tech problems, especially over Zoom, and introductions. Please tell us about yourself. Then we get into the actual pitch for the next 30 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of questions. So be sure to have answers to the questions we mentioned earlier about character and story. And we also may ask questions during your pitch, but please don't be thrown off. Pitches are a conversation. And then 5 minutes of wrap up and goodbyes. So now that we're all working from home, here's some additional tips. The timing is basically the same, but please familiarize yourself with the program. We use Zoom, test the technology, it's unpredictable, and always have a backup plan. And even if it's a writer-driven pitch, we highly recommend having some visual aid. Even if it's just a PowerPoint that has your highlights or some art that was pulled from the internet, it's easier for us to keep track of everything. And on that, please don't have any text-heavy slides where you're reading everything off of it. And make sure to introduce yourself and the team up at top and what role they serve.
Here's some more pitching tips for you guys. Do your homework. Know what we have on the air and whether your show would fit. Know our brand, which if Kitty and I are doing our jobs right, you should know by the end of this presentation. But also know if your show idea exists on other channels. For example, we are currently not taking any pitches for a show about a sponge who's best friends with a sea star. Lead with your personal story. This is actually really important for us. We want to know, why are you the one to tell the story? What does it mean to you? And how do you personally connect with these characters? And maybe how has your own life inspired this show? This all speaks to our stories that matter and our authentic points of view pillar. Make sure we understand that you have a distinct point of view for this project. Also, it's just really fun to get to know you. Don't come unprepared. Please practice your pitch. Make sure you are hitting your most vital points, and please don't get too into the weeds on anything. Please don't come in with any consumer products plans. For us, it's putting the cart before the horse. If the concept, the world, the characters work, we'll have time to figure out the books, the toys, the theme park rides way later down the line. And plus, Disney has highly qualified departments that are dedicated to this. So we as executives are really only interested in your story. Leave behinds, obviously, we're all working from home now. In the past, we would accept physical materials, but in this Zoom-centered world, please have a PDF of your pitch and any take-home documents available to send to us after we've met with you. We use these to share with our team and keep in mind as we're reviewing your pitch. Please be patient. We get a lot of pitches. It may take us some time to sort through everything, but also please don't be afraid to follow up. We really do appreciate those emails that are like, hey, just want to check in, but also we do appreciate your patience. And finally, keep at it. You are going to hear no a lot. To give you some perspective, on average, we're interested in about 1 out of 100 pitches we hear. So even if the pitch doesn't work out the first time, take what you've learned from the experience and work on your next great idea. Our door is always open and everything is experience. And with that, Kitty and I want to thank you guys so much for listening in on our presentation. Again, this is past Kitty and Emily, and you will see future, or I guess present, future now, but present when we're there, Kitty and Emily when we do the Q&A. So without further ado, we're going to do some technical transition and move over to that. And thank you again. We'll see you in just a minute.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
We're back.
We're back.
Ready to take some questions from you guys. I saw a lot going on.
Oh man,
we'll start off. Thank you guys all for coming.
Yes, thank you so much. Clearly this is present Kitty and Emily because we're both wearing different outfits.
Okay, so questions and answers. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so we got this a few times. How do I go about pitching a show at TVA? Great question. So first of all, I have to say this. It is Walt Disney Studios company policy that we do not accept unsolicited pitches. What that means is please don't cold send us your ideas and materials without us requesting them. If you're looking to pitch, we encourage you to reach out through your representative. And if you don't have a representative, we prefer you to reach out to us and set up a general meeting first. We want to get to know you and your style, your creative, before we jump into the pitching process with you. So maybe you're not ready to pitch just yet, but making a connection is the first step. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Our next question was, we got a lot of really great questions. From Eli, what do you believe is the most important aspect of representing diverse animated characters nowadays compared to the more offensive and stereotypical past animation? We spoke to our authentic points of view through inclusive storytelling pillar. That is really our method for telling more diverse and inclusive stories now is authenticity. We are not doing anything if it's not coming from a genuine and authentic point of view. At Disney, we also have an incredible research team that is constantly in the field with kids, with parents, with families, giving us real-time information about our viewers. And we are doing everything we can as executives, working alongside our show creators to make sure we are telling the most authentic story possible. We also have wonderful S&P and legal teams that also tell us if we're doing anything that's borderline offensive. So we are authenticity and checking in. That's how we do it.
All right. If you don't have any kids or know any kids, what are some ways to learn more about what kids want? So Emily and I don't have kids, but I'd say before I got to Disney, some ways that I was able to sort of touch base with kids is, and this may seem very simplistic, but YouTube is a good way. See what's trending, see what most viewers are watching on that's in the kids space, because that captures a lot of trends. But for storytelling, I will say that thinking about when you were a kid and what you wished was on TV, although generations change bit by bit, there's probably still a kid who doesn't quite see themselves and reflected on screen. So it's great to know what's in the zeitgeist, what's out there, but also think about what's your story and how you can put that story into your protagonist and the show that you put out with purpose. And I think, you'll authentically connect with kids that way too.
Yeah, just watch cartoons. Like that's how I came up to. I never stopped watching cartoons, even when I was getting to like middle school and high school, when it was not cool to be watching cartoons. Like I was watching Higglytown Heroes and the Backyardigans like a normal person. But it is. I mean, Kitty and I both continue to still watch, not even just cartoons, but kid and young adult content, because we enjoy it. We like making it. I had a question from Corey that is directed to me. Sorry, Kitty. But it was, how is transitioning from production to development, and what were the most transferable skills? I think this is a great question because the path from, or I guess the roles of production and development, when I was coming up at animation school and even just starting in the industry, I wasn't quite aware what a creative executive even was. Like I knew there were executives and people who came in and gave notes on stuff, but I had no idea what an executive did, how they got there, everything. And it wasn't until I started working in development production that I got to work hand in hand with wonderful executives like Kitty. But I will say, like, the most transferable skills is a passion for animation, is a passion for both the industry and the art form. I mentioned just a second ago, but I did go to school for animation. So I have a background in art. I wanted to be a character designer when I graduated college. I started as a PA, but having a connection to the art form and a passion for it is really something that transfers across from production to creative. And then there's also just other basic skills like multitasking, project management, being really proactive and outgoing. As an executive and a production person, you are talking with people constantly. You're balancing like hundreds of projects at once. I mean, in development right now, we've got like 70 projects in development. So we're balancing all of it. I'm sure Kitty has more in junior. I feel like, but just skills, working on skills like that. And I will say, if you are just starting out in the industry, whether you know what you want to do, you want to be an artist, you want to be a production person, you do want to be an executive, a writer, whatever. I can't stress networking enough. Meeting people in the industry, getting to know how they got their start, what inspired them. The crazy thing about this entertainment industry is everybody comes from everywhere and everybody has a different journey and a different path. So meeting with people, connecting with them genuinely is a great way to figure out how to get to where you want to be. That was a long-winded answer to a simple question.
That was great. That was great. Okay, next question. I love the viral clips I've seen of Muppet Babies challenging traditional gender roles. How does the decision come about to do things like that? So we had a wonderful episode called Gonzarella, which I think you may be referring to, where Gonzo is Cinderella and he wants to wear a dress, and the other Muppet Babies, completely accept him for who he is and his decision. So there's a great D23 article about this with interviewing Tom Warburton, who is the EP on the show. And he explained that, they always wanted to have an episode where Gonzo just shows up to the nursery wearing a skirt and everyone just is not fazed by it because, at the end of the day, Disney Junior, we want to inspire kids to be 100% themselves. And Robin Brown, who's the wonderful story editor and co-producer on the project, took that idea and turned it into this wonderful Cinderella story. So if you want to read more about that particular decision and just Muppet Babies in general, D23 has that article. So I highly suggest you take it out. But we're very proud of the episode.
I love Gonzarella so much. It warms my heart. Okay, from Laura, I've heard conflicting opinions about how finished your pitch should be. Do you prefer to see pitches that know exactly how the story should begin and end, or is a pitch that offers flexibility for growth and change more appealing? That's a great question. I mean, a little bit of both. Kitty and I went over those questions. Kitty and I went over what we expect in a pitch Bible and also those questions we typically ask in pitches. For us, I think that's about as much as we need. Really, for us at Disney, I think for Junior too, character is the most important thing. We are doing more high concept serialized stuff for Disney Plus, but we don't need a whole map of your entire world, your entire journey, your entire plot point. Development is a long process with a lot of people involved. We almost never take what somebody pitches to us and puts it on the screen. Development is about evolving and changing and adding based on feedback, based on your own growth as you go through the development process. But really for us, when we're taking pitches from people and considering creators, we want to know that you know your characters and their journeys inside and out. We don't need to know what happens at the midpoint in season 2. We'll figure that out later. We got tons of time to do that.
Okay, let's see. Can we still pitch from outside the US? I'm in the UK. I was not sure whether it was still possible. We take pitches from everywhere. If you have a rep, please have them reach out. And if you don't, again, to my previous where we started, just reach out for a general, and that's how we can get to know you first before you pitch. But even before, the pandemic, we were taking pitches from the UK and around the world. So yeah. Let's see.
I think Kitty spoke to this. Do I need an agent if I plan to pitch at DTVA? Yeah, like Kitty said, we don't take unsolicited pitches, but that doesn't mean you necessarily need a rep. We just highly recommend you reach out and set a general first, because we like to get to know who we're taking pitches from. We legally cannot accept unsolicited pitches. We can't stress that enough.
I do suggest though, like having some experience under your belt though, before you reach out. Obviously you don't have to be like an EP in order to pitch to us, but it is helpful if you, to our point in the slide in the presentation is about your experience. At the end of the day, this is going to be your idea that hopefully, knock on wood, would turn into a show. And we want someone who is able to lead a team or be a part of the process in a significant way, right? So I highly suggest you get some more experience, whether it's in, I think a lot of artists are here, like in storyboarding and directing, or, we've also worked with like literary people, book writers, just more experience in the storytelling realm. And then that's always great to know when we meet with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say to that self-starters point that Kitty made, we really do expect you to be able to drive your project through development. Obviously, as creative executives, we're here to help you along the way, protect you from everything we can. We like to be your North Star, you're sailing your own ship or whatever the analogy is. But part of that just comes from that experience. I think once you get in the industry, start making connections, again, start leading teams, whether it be you're a director and you're leading a few board artists, or you're a storyboard artist leading a few revisionists, you're a line producer, you're leading some production people. I think just those are the kinds of skills that we're really looking for, and they'll help you in the long run too. We really want to create a successful development experience for you.
Let's see. Is it a good thing to have a full animated scene presented during the pitch? Some showrunners say yes and some say not. What's DTVA's point of view on this subject? I'm going to give this one to Emily because for the most part, we're writer driven at Disney Junior. We do, we look at your written materials first and foremost. And again, back to that character and story and, what's the show really about? So we're not as interested in the animated scenes, but Emily, what do you guys do over at TVA?
I mean, every project is really a snowflake. Like Kitty said, we're doing writer-driven pitches. We're doing board or director-driven pitches. We're doing art, like some art-driven pitches. It's play to your strengths. If you are an animator or a director and you have boarded this beautiful opening for your project, we're not going to say no. I love watching stuff. I'm not going to say no to seeing it. You don't need it. We've seen the gambit of pitches. I've seen people come in with a piece of paper and a log line, and it's been a great conversation about their ideas and their characters. I've seen people come in with full animated pilots, and it's also been a great experience. There's no, again, kind of going back to that last question, as long as you have the base of your idea and the base of your project, which really does come to character and story, that's what we're going to look for. That's what we're going to need. You don't need a fully visually developed project. You don't need a fully animated thing. You don't need to hire voice actors, editors, musicians. Like you don't need to do that unless you feel like it helps. But I'm saying you really don't need to do that. And back to the Q&A.
Is a culturally diverse background. Sorry, it was going so fast. Is a culturally diverse background a plus for pitching ideas that represent your culture? Absolutely, 100% yes. That's kind of what I meant when we were talking about authentic points of view. If you are trying to tell a pitch about your culture, your background, your childhood, your family, having that authentic experience is what we're looking for. Because as executives, we've only had a certain level of experiences in our lives. The wonderful thing about animation is it's a team effort across the board. Nobody makes anything alone. Nobody makes any series that ends up on our screen alone. Animation is it's a collaborative medium. So I think, you come in with your perspective, we come in with our perspective as executives, but also as you grow through the development process, you'll bring in writers, directors, musicians, artists, cast, everything that will help make your show what it is.
Okay, you guys have done a really good job of going through some major do's for putting together a pitch for Disney TVA. Thank you. Are there any major don'ts in each of the categories that you've talked about today that you've seen and suggest steering away from? For pitching, I will say, if you do have a no, if we say no, please take it graciously. There's a lot that we have in development, and sometimes, the idea just it's the timing, right? And then other times it's not quite right for the brand. It doesn't mean no forever to you as a person. It just means to that particular idea. So just please keep that in mind. I know like everyone puts a bit of themselves in every pitch, and we completely understand, and we're right there with you. And, to pitch in general is very brave, and like, we commend you for that. So I think just know that, we're all in it together and we're all rooting for you. It may not be that particular project, but we're looking forward to the next one that you bring up.
Yeah, I think to that point, we've spoke a lot to what we're looking for at Disney right now, but like, our creative mandates are changing constantly. They always have been, and they always will, just based on external, internal things that are happening. And even though you might think that your pitch is like a sure shot for Disney, it could be similar to something that exists right now. It could just be not what we're looking for at the time. So kind of to Kitty's point, if we say like, hey, this was great. We're always actually very gracious with our feedback. We do like to give constructive feedback. But just saying like, okay, like, not fighting it, because it gets hard when people fight the nose. We're sorry. We never like passing on things, but
no. But also, just to add on, like, we already mentioned it in our presentation, but we're not cynical. We don't do gore. There's certain aspects of content that just doesn't quite fit with the Disney brand. We're about optimism. We're about, magical wish fulfillment. So, think about your project and the brand that you're selling it to, because you may think it's like a wonderful, coming of age story, but it just doesn't quite fit with us. But it could be, just for a different brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the easiest way to do that, aside from kind of comparing it to the pillars that we talked about, is just looking at our shows on the air right now. Look at Big City Greens, look at Owl House, look at Amphibia, and say like, would I see this in one of those shows?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, it's a lot of questions. What are the steps from the point where you accept the pitch to the point where it goes into production? That is a great question, and it's long. I think I've said this before. Every project is a snowflake. Every process is a little bit different, depending on you, depending on development at the time, depending on your production needs. But basically, we option your pitch. Wonderful, great. We work in steps. So the typical development process from, pitch optioning to pilot green light, or even to series air, but let's just say to pilot green light, is anywhere between 2 to 3 to 4 years. Right, Kitty? Are you guys?
It really, it goes anywhere from 2 to 5 years. Depending on the project. I would say 2 to 3 is average.
Yeah, that's a good way. And basically what happens is like, we have certain checkpoints in development. So we option your pitch, and then we're working with you to get to that. I said pilot green light. I meant series green light. So we work with you to get to a pilot green light. So we call that like pre-pilot development. So that's where we're working with you. You're fleshing out your show Bible. You're working on what your pilot episode would be. You are doing some early visual development, and you're doing this along with a team. So if you are a director, showrunner, we'll bring in a writer to help you. If you are a writer, showrunner, we'll bring in a director, vice versa. This is where we kind of start assembling that small team. And you do all this to get to a pilot greenlight pitch. And that pilot greenlight pitch will be to our higher up executives. And basically that will get you to the next phase. So that's when you'll start developing your pilot. And this is where we'll do a full animatic, a black and white animatic, and an animation test. Although again, every project's a little bit different in what they need. And even Disney Junior is a lot different in what you guys expect for deliverables. But throughout that process, you are doing full pilot production. We're working with an animation studio. We're doing a fully animated, usually 2 to 3 minute piece. Again, different for every project. And then at the end of that, we actually do focus group testing with kids and their parents, again, depending on the project, that is qualitative and quantitative. And then based on that and another pitch to higher up executives, you'll get your series green light. So that's prepare for 2.5 to 3 years of that.
Mm-hmm. I have heard from other people's experiences pitching that even if the pitch is turned down, the rights of their idea no longer can be used by the creator. How true is this, and how long does that affect the artist, writer, director? So this is not true. Well, it depends. Okay, so if you come to us with a pitch and we option it, we are developing it exclusively, but we are basically borrowing your rights. And I'm sure there's a lawyer who's gonna, correct me in my language, but basically like we don't own that idea unless we buy it. So just know that when we are in development, we are working together, but if it's still under option, it should be able to revert back to you. The timeline of reverting back, it's different for every project, but that's hopefully a basic answer to your question.
Yeah. Oh, you just read that one. Working as a showrunner at Disney TVA, how much creative control do you have over every aspect of production? That's a good question. Again, every project is a snowflake and every creator is different. You will get to choose how much you want to be involved with everything when it gets into series production. In development, we expect you to be pretty very involved, because again, that self-starters point we made earlier, you are the one driving your show along. You will work with the team, like I said before, based on your skill set. If you need an art director, we'll get you an art director. If you need a writer, we'll get you a writer, but you will be involved in every step of the way as you work along with that team.
Is public online exposure of a cartoon idea before a pitch good or bad? It depends. So we've optioned pitches where they've done the festival circuit. So there is, we do that. But if it's online on a YouTube channel, yeah, I don't know. I mean, every project's different, right? It just depends on what's the level of engagement, what's the idea, and again, what's the heart. What's the character? What's the story? That's what it really boils down to. It's helpful if you have engagement and like you can say, listen, this is a project I've had out there and it's gotten a lot of great feedback. Like that's all wonderful. And we will certainly take that into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's really about character, story, and heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you have a webcomic or a YouTube series about your idea, unless it's like been purchased by even then, but unless it's been like optioned by another studio, if you just have it online and you're like, I have this webcomic I want to pitch, that is not a problem for us.
Okay, let's see what's next.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
In what circumstances would a story stop at a pilot episode, or do shows sometimes get canceled? Yes, unfortunately, I mentioned before, we have 70 projects in development, all at different stages. But, development is a long process and, not every single project is going to make it through. That's just kind of the nature of the business. There's always a different reason for it. I won't get into the nitty gritty of why a show doesn't make it. It's always sad when it doesn't make it. But sometimes they get stopped at that pilot green light phase that I mentioned before, where you've kind of done all your pre-pilot development. We pitch it to pilot. Sometimes it won't make it past that. Sometimes it'll go all the way to series green light and it won't make it for some reason or another. Sometimes it's the focus group testing. Sometimes it's, any various internal, external factors. But it does happen, and it's sad because we all put our heart and soul into every project.
Yeah. And sometimes, I will say, like, sometimes it is, you see engagement in kids in the testing phase, and it may not be landing the way we all expect it to land. So that could be a factor. And also just, there's a lot going on at the Walt Disney Company. So maybe there's other factors involving like content that other units are putting out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what is a good way to overcome the fears of not feeling good enough or lacking confidence in your skills that may be holding someone back from taking the risk or trying to break it into the industry? So I will give a personal anecdote. I tried to break into animation for 5 years, and thus my illustrious history in prison documentaries and just taking any job I could that had experience. But I'd say, if you truly want to be in this industry, whether as a creator or as an executive, you just have to keep at it, keep making connections, connecting authentically, being who you are. And though you may be lacking the confidence now, just the more people you meet, and I'm like a crazy introvert, like I don't like going outside. But when you're with your people, when you're talking animation, when you're talking about kids content, you just naturally find the people that you connect with who could potentially, help you along the way as you find those positions and as you gather more experience. Emily, do you have anything more to add?
No, I think that's exactly it. Every person, no matter where they are in the industry, if they have a show that they're running, if they're just starting out, everybody deals with imposter syndrome. I mean, I do all the time as an executive.
We still do. Yeah.
I'm like, why am I the one to give these notes? But like Kitty said, I think it's finding a place where you feel like you fit in, you feel confident. Everybody has those waves of if I'm good enough or not. And it's kind of just managing that and surrounding yourself with good and supportive people.
And don't be discouraged if what you're doing is like tangential to like kids animation or just like in entertainment in general. Just keep at it and try to make more connections in the animation industry. It's a very small community, but there's so many skills, and I'm sure Emily has lots of skills too that she's like acquired in the past that you do get to use in this position and in this world. That is super helpful. So like I had a stint doing like VR, okay. But now that like, interactive storytelling, and this is like more a part of kids' lives, like who knew that would be an asset? So I'd say any experience you get that's in entertainment and that's just from you being you, just makes you that much more attractive and like differentiates you from the pack, right? But you have to, at first and foremost, like demonstrate your passion for the space and that you're not going home, right? Like you're going to keep trying.
Yeah. I think even to like what Kitty had mentioned earlier, like I did say that like I started off my animation career and my animation dreams wanting to be, I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to be a storyboard artist. I ended up wanting to be a character designer, and starting in production and working on my portfolio when I was first starting in the industry, I dealt with those feelings all the time of like, oh my God, if I can't, do this character turn or get better at character design, I'm never going to work in the industry. But working as a PA and on shows and in development, I realized that like, just because you feel like you can't do this one thing or you're not succeeding in this one thing, the industry is huge. There's so many spots to work in the industry, especially in animation. So the path that you think you're going to take now might not ultimately be the path you do take. But everything is experience. I think everything you take what you've learned and you put it into the work you're doing.
I think we're almost at time. So we have time for one more question, maybe.
Oh, there's so many good questions.
Should we do the influence one, Emily?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
How much influence do executives have over the showrunner, over the show's decisions regarding plot or development? So we're Disney, right? So going back to those brand filters, we as executives are like the 10,000 foot view above, right? Like you're in it and you're looking at it like, hyper focused, we're looking at all the shows, how everything lives together. So I'd say, we want to support your creative vision. We want to support, you succeeding in your show, but there are going to be asks from us to, things here and there to just make it feel more in line with Disney. Or if there's another show that's like premiering that has like a squirrel, we may ask you like, hey, like you want to brainstorm on other animals besides squirrels. So, I think what I like in pitches though, that I suggest you guys do if you are going to pitch to us, is put what's your like, what is most important to you about the pitch? Because as we move in development, we have that creative North Star together, right? If it's like the purpose of this is that you want to have an autistic protagonist at its center because like that's a story that you relate to, or that you know someone that you care about that this is like based off of, like that is like the show purpose, right? Like we're all looking to that. So the squirrel turning it into a dog, at the end of the day, it's fine. We're not changing the DNA of your show. So just know that like there are going to be changes from executives from the Disney point of view, but it's all with the intention of making your show succeed and for it to be a global success.
Yeah. And I think like the position of executive, kind of like I said before, I had no idea what a creative executive was when I first started, but our biggest jobs as creative executives, I feel like, especially in development, is like, we are your biggest fans. We are your cheerleaders. We are there for you with whatever you need to help you get along this process. We're there at every phase, every step. We're looking over every script, every premise, every design that gets done for your project. And we're giving our notes, again, based on the Disney executive side, but also as like our own opinions on our shows. Sometimes it's always good to have an outsider's perspective on what you're working on, especially in development. When you're working by yourself, it's easy to get really zeroed in on something. And sometimes it's just nice to have a conversation with somebody else who's equally passionate about your project to give you that additional perspective, and just like have that conversation. But we really, our job first and foremost is to help your show get made and help you make the show you want to make.
All right, I think that's all the questions we can take. Just a reminder, so our next session is Mickey Mouse, a Caricature on History with Asia Ellington, Cameron Thompson, and Juan Garrido at 12 p.m. Pacific time. That should be a really good panel, but we just want to thank you guys so much for showing up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend and good Lightbox.
Bye, guys.
Bye.